The weather is snowy, perfect conditions for an NFL football game. An AFC divisional round for that matter. We have a matchup between an infant Tom Brady that had just gotten his chance to start earlier that season, and a high-powered offense in the Raiders that had just acquired legendary receiver Jerry Rice as well as quarterback Rich Gannon. They were the favorites to win, and because of that, they were leading 13-3 in the third quarter, giving that belt to ass to New England's Patriots' brand new offense. Because of the conditions, it was hard to get any offense going for either team, so it was a low-scoring game. But Tom Brady did pick up some steam in a later drive, trying to make a comeback for his team. On this drive, he's able to use his legs and get into the touchdown, something that he rarely ever did later on in his career. The game was pretty much normal, other than the fact that it was pretty snowy out. But nobody knew that this would become one of the most controversial games ever in NFL existence. Because on this play right here, Tom Brady goes for the pass and gets sacked and ends up fumbling the ball, very visibly fumbling it. As you can see him tucking the ball into his chest and then dropping it. Anyone else would say that that is a fumble. No one but a Patriots fan could say that that wasn't a fumble. But unfortunately to the Raiders fans, they ended up ruling this call not a fumble but an incomplete pass, and New England was able to go ahead and get their field goal and would later on go on to win that game and win the Super Bowl that year. Tom Brady would have a legendary performance and end up winning the game all the way in the overtime, and Raiders fans were left to wonder what could have been that season if they did end up getting the right call. But looking at the replay once again, one wonders how that was not called a fumble and how that was called an incomplete pass when Tom Brady clearly threw it into his chest and then fumbled the ball. And how was this initial fumble call even overturned in the first place when it was visibly a fumble? We of course are talking about the infamous tuck rule, one of the worst rules in NFL history and one of the most controversial rules that the NFL had ever implemented. See, the tuck rule was a pre-existing NFL rule designed to clarify when a quarterback's arm movement constitutes a forward pass, even if the quarterback subsequently attempts to tuck the ball back towards their body. The rule aimed to protect quarterbacks by defining a specific moment when a pass is initiated, preventing subjective interpretations of whether a player is attempting to throw or simply returning the ball to a carrying position, completely eliminating the fact that if a player or a quarterback attempts to tuck the ball even after trying to throw it, it is not a fumble because of the fact that before him tucking the ball, he attempted to throw the ball. So any forward motion could basically be fallen under a attempt of pass, and that would make the ball falling to the floor an incomplete pass and not a fumble. The tuck rule was a continuous rule in the NFL that was in effect from 1999 to 2013. It was a technicality within the NFL's rules for determining if a play was a forward pass or a fumble. According to NFL Rule 3, Section 22, Article 2, Note 2, if an offensive player intended to throw a forward pass, any forward motion of their arm initiated a forward pass, even if they lost control while trying to tuck the ball back. If the player had already tucked the ball into their body, then lost possession, then it would later be considered a fumble. But that was the only way that a quarterback could actually fumble. But it was pretty easy to get away with a lot of this, which is why it was so controversial, especially during that 2001 AFC game. The rule was created to reduce subjective calls by providing a clear distinction between an incomplete pass and a fumble when the quarterback lost the ball after being hit during a passing attempt. It was intended to offer some protection to quarterbacks in such situations. It was also intended to lose a little bit of that RNG factor whenever refs were making calls for NFL games, because a subjective call is always going to cause controversy, and NFL is trying to prevent as much controversy as they can as possible. But one can see how this could be a very, very horrible rule and a very controversial rule for all NFL fans alike. Many fans claimed its confusion and perceived unfairness. Even players found the rule illogical and difficult to understand. It seemed counterintuitive that a quarterback losing the ball while clearly trying to secure it could ever be ruled an incomplete pass rather than a fumble. It had too much impact on outcomes that offended critics, as they argued that the tuck rule could significantly alter the outcome of games even when applied according to the real book. The fact that it impacted a playoff game with high stakes only intensified the complaints. There was difficulty defining tucking. The rule's language, though intended to be objective, still required officials to interpret a quarterback's actions, particularly when it came to whether they were attempting to tuck the ball or still in the process of throwing. This element of subjectivity was a source of frustration to fans and critics and players alike. And it was just plain stupid and dumb. It was a stupid rule that had no place in the game. It was pretty much illogical, and there was no reason for this rule because of the fact that it is a contact sport. So quarterbacks have to be ready to protect the ball, and they shouldn't be having the refs save them in these crucial games. Now, although this controversial rule did help Tom Brady cement his legacy, some say this was an early instance of the NFL saving Tom Brady and trying to make them their golden boy. Personally, I think it was just a coincidence. I don't think this has anything have to do with the Deflategate, but this has led many people to include this in Patriots' many controversial games and many controversial accusations of them cheating in playoff games. As after the controversial play, the Patriots drove down the field and Vinatieri kicked a game-tying 45-yard field goal through the snow with 27 seconds left to send the game into overtime. Then New England would win the toss and start overtime with the ball, and Brady led the Patriots on a 61-yard drive, completing all 8 of his pass attempts for 45 yards. You can't tell me that's not greatness, but at the same time, he did get a pedestal from the refs. Vinatieri would then kick another 20-yard field goal, giving the Patriots a 16-3 victory and advancing them to the AFC Championship game. The Patriots went on to win the Super Bowl, launching Brady Belichick dynasty that saw them appear in 9 Super Bowls and win 6 of them. A fact that many don't know was that the New England Patriots were actually victims to these rules earlier that season, as in week 2 of Tom Brady's first ever start. A play where Jets quarterback Vinny Testaverde appeared to fumble was reviewed and overturned, with the tuck rule being the basis for the ruling, as is it was an incomplete pass instead of a fumble. The Jets ultimately tied the game with a field goal on that drive and then went on to win 10-3 against the Patriots. Head coach Bill Belichick actually referred to this game when discussing the later Patriots-Raiders game, mentioning that his team had experienced the other side of the tuck rule earlier that season. Of course, the stakes were completely different, as one was a regular season game and the other was a playoff game. So I don't know if you could really use that, but at the same time, it goes to show how stupid that rule was and how, even the person that did benefit from it did actually become a victim of it or was a victim of it before, it had occurred to them. A couple seasons down the line, the Washington Redskins versus the Denver Broncos in a 2005 regular season game. The Broncos quarterback Jake Plummer lost the ball in the end zone, initially called a fumble and a safety for the Redskins. However, replay review again brought in the tuck rule, reversing the call to an incomplete pass, saying that the Broncos from the safety, and Denver went on to win that game as well. A much more recent instance, but I mean still like 15 years ago, in 2010, Kansas City Chiefs versus Baltimore Ravens. The tuck rule also factored into a playoff game on January 9, 2011. After this game, even Mike Pereira, the former NFL vice president of officiating, expressed his disapproval of the tuck rule because of this game. This incident further fueled the debate surrounding the rule and ultimately contributed to its elimination. And as you can see, everybody who is a victim of this tuck rule ends up losing. And you can see how that's very controversial, especially the NFL fans, as if they see their team lose to this, I'm not gonna lie, I'm throwing my laptop and my TV across the goddamn window. All these complaints eventually led to the rule's elimination in 2013. A key factor in the decision was the desire for greater clarity and simplicity in the rules of governing possession. The belief was that simpler rule would lead to fewer controversial calls and a better viewing experience for fans. While the tuck rule is no longer in effect, it remains a notable part of NFL history, forever associated with the pivotal 2001 playoff game and the debate it sparked about the complexities of football's rule book. And I think we're all better off without that rule being on there because, like I said earlier, if the Cowboys end up losing because of that, I think I'd probably throw my laptop and my TV across the window. But how do you guys feel about this rule? And, guys, let me know if you have any other rules that you guys dislike that are still in effect to this day. Go ahead and comment that down below. Twin Beams loves you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys later. Bye.